Crossing the threshold, part-eyed fissure behind them sealed shut with a grinding of stone, leaving only darkness ahead. Jack turned back instinctively, but there was no way out now, just smooth, unbroken rock where the entrance had been. Great, he muttered. One-way ticket to certain doom. Love it. Mara raised a glowing fragment to light their path. The blue-white radiance spilled across the tunnel walls, revealing carvings etched into the stone, spirals, flames, and symbols that seemed to shift if one looked too long. These aren't decorations, she whispered, running her fingers over the markings. They're warnings. The heir's voice was calm but heavy. Not warnings, invitations. This place recognizes seekers. It judges whether we are worthy of what lies within. Jack snorted. If this place thinks I'm worthy, it's in for a nasty surprise. As they moved deeper, the tunnel widened into a vast chamber. The air was thick with moisture, the floor covered in shallow water that reflected their glowing light like a mirror. Towering stone statues stood along the edges, figures cloaked in robes, faces hidden, each holding a fragment-shaped object close to its chest. Mara slowed, reverent. Guardians of the first flame. They're older than history itself. The heir studied the statues with narrowed eyes. And not all of them will remain stone, as if on cue. One of the figures shuddered. Cracks of light spread across its stone surface, and with a deafening groan, it stepped down into the water. Its face remained hidden, but its hands gripped a spectral blade glowing with azure fire. Jack raised his sword. Called it. Always statues. Always, the guardian advanced, every step rippling through the shallow water. Its voice was not one, but many layered whispers echoing through the chamber. Prove yourselves. Or be unmade. Lightning crackled through the cavern's ceiling, illuminating the trio in stark flashes. Mara took a breath, steadying herself. This is the true threshold. If we fail here, the path ahead will be forever closed. The air's flames flared, reflecting off the water. Then we do not fail. Jack forced a grin, though his knuckles whitened on his sword. Guess it's time to show destiny what bad taste it has in heroes. The guardian raised its blade, and the chamber erupted with light as the battle began. The guardian's blade came down in an arc of blinding azure fire, splitting the water like glass. Jack dove aside, the shockwave nearly throwing him off his feet. He came up sputtering. Okay, he coughed, that's officially unfair. My sword doesn't come with built-in lightning. Mara already had her hands raised, fragments glowing brighter as she wove protective runes in the air. Golden light shimmered around the trio, deflecting a second strike that would have cut them in half. Keep it busy, Jack. The fragments resonate with its energy. I think I can disrupt the cycle. The heir's voice was calm but edged with fire. Disrupting is not enough. This guardian does not fall to brute force. It falls to truth. Truth later, Jack grunted, meeting the guardian's blade with his own. The impact jarred his bones, but to his surprise, the sword held. Sparks flew across the chamber, reflected in the water's mirror surface below. The guardian turned its faceless head toward Mara. She felt it probing, whispering into her mind with voices like wind through 1,000 cracks. Scholar, you hide your fear behind knowledge. Will you risk your mind for truth? Mara's breath caught. She had seen visions already, her students lost to shadow, her research twisted for war. For a heartbeat, her concentration faltered. The protective ward flickered. Jack saw it and yelled, Mara, don't listen to it. He shoved against the guardian's blade, forcing it back an inch. This thing's all smoke and intimidation. The air's flames roared suddenly, spreading across the water like a serpent. His voice cut through the whispers. Truth is not the absence of fear. Truth is what survives it. Mara steadied herself. She pressed the fragments to her chest, drawing strength from their resonance. The visions still pressed at the edges of her thoughts, but they no longer unmade her. They became fuel. Runes flared from her hands, wrapping around Jack's sword in a golden sheen. Try again, she said through gritted teeth. Jack smirked. Gladly. He lunged. This time, when blade met blade, the shockwave rippled outward in concentric rings of light. The guardian staggered back, For the first time, it seemed uncertain. The chamber vibrated as the Guardian's many voices shifted from threat to acknowledgement. Courage, flame, knowledge, you step beyond fear. But the path ahead will demand more. Its blade dissolved into sparks. The stone figure bowed once before crumbling back into lifeless rock, sinking into the water. The cavern went still, save for the quiet hum of the fragments in Mara's hands. Jack exhaled, leaning on his sword. One down. About 1,000 terrifying trials to go. Mara smiled faintly, though sweat beaded her brow. This was just the threshold. We've only proven we can enter. The air turned to the tunnel that stretched ahead, its darkness alive with unseen promise. His flames dimmed, leaving only a soft glow. Then we walk it, he said. Beyond this point, there is no turning back. Only destiny, and together they stepped forward, leaving the broken Guardian behind, deeper into the world of trials where myths and truth intertwined. The echoes of the Guardian's fall lingered long after the stone had settled. For a time, no one spoke. The chamber felt hollow, yet alive, as if the walls themselves had witnessed their defiance. Jack finally broke the silence. So, is it just me, or did that thing basically say, "Congrats, now the hard part starts"? Mara's lips pressed into a thin line. She turned the fragments in her hands, their glow softer now, like embers at rest. Guardians never lie. Their words are keys, cryptic but purposeful. That trial wasn't about strength. It was about seeing whether we would break under our own fears. Jack gave a half grin, though it didn't reach his eyes. Guess we passed, barely. The heir's gaze remained fixed on the tunnel ahead, his flames dim, his expression unreadable. We did not pass. We were admitted. The true passage lies beyond. The tunnel swallowed them as they pressed on. It sloped downward, the air growing cooler with every step. Soon the ground beneath their boots was no longer stone but crystal, glowing faintly in veins of green and violet. The walls shimmered like glass, reflecting distorted versions of their faces. Jack caught sight of his reflection, except it wasn't quite him. The mirrored Jack stared back with hollow eyes, his mouth twisted into a bitter sneer. Jack blinked and looked away quickly. "Don't look too long," Mara warned, her voice tense. "These crystals aren't mirrors. They're probes showing fragments of what we fear most." Jack glanced at her. "And what do they show you?" Mara didn't answer. She only walked faster, clutching the fragments tighter. The air thickened, as though the cave itself were breathing. Whispering returned, softer than before, but more insidious, like voices speaking just behind the ear. "You are not enough. Your flame will consume them. Your knowledge cannot save anyone." Jack slapped at the empty air. "Nope. Not listening. Nope, nope, nope." The air, however, stopped. His flames flickered, dimming dangerously low. For the first time, uncertainty shadowed his expression. "They are not lies," he said quietly. "They're truths I have fought to bury." Mara turned sharply toward him, eyes fierce. "No, they are fragments of fear, twisted into weapons. Do not let them define you." Jack stepped between them, sword drawn as if he could cut the whispers from the air. "We've already beaten one stone ghost with a god complex. We'll beat this too." Together, the tunnel widened suddenly into another chamber. Here, the crystal walls opened into a vast dome, its ceiling lost in darkness. In the center floated a stone dais suspended above a bottomless abyss. Upon the dais pulsed another pedestal empty, but the air around it shimmered with energy, like heat over fire. Mara's eyes widened. "This is a false fragment. A trial of choice." The air's flames rose higher, dancing across his arms. "Choice," he said grimly, "can break stronger souls than combat." Jack groaned. "Please tell me this isn't one of those tests where we have to pick which one of us gets zapped into oblivion." But as they stepped closer, 3 paths of light appeared across the abyss, gold, crimson, and silver, each leading to the dais. Mara's fragments glowed violently. Almost in protest. "This is it," she whispered. "The cave is forcing us to reveal who we are and what we're willing to sacrifice." And with that, the voices returned, louder than ever, daring them to choose. The 3 paths shimmered like veins of living light across the abyss. Gold pulsed warmly, inviting. Crimson flickered like a heartbeat, violent and urgent. Silver gleamed cold and sharp, like moonlight on steel. Mara's breath quickened as she stepped closer. The fragments in her hands thrummed, each in rhythm with a different path. "It's not random," she whispered. "Each path is tied to us. Our strengths, our fears." Jack groaned. "Great, so it's personalized torment." "Love that." The heir's voice was low, steady, but tense. "The caves force us to choose which truth to face. But if we choose wrongly," he let the silence hang. The abyss below them pulsed faintly, as if waiting. Mara studied the paths. "The gold knowledge, enlightenment. That's mine." Her voice faltered. "It's what I cling to. But it will test my obsession, my fear that I can't protect anyone with only words and books." Jack rubbed the back of his neck. "Crimson's definitely mine. Heartbeat, anger, fear, impulse. That's me in a nutshell. And I'm guessing it'll make me face all the times I wanted to run instead of fight." They both turned to the heir. He did not hesitate. "Silver. Fire burns bright, but silver is the shadow of flame. It is my fear that my fire is not creation, but destruction." The paths pulsed brighter, as though confirming their confessions. Jack squinted at the abyss. "So, what? We each take our own path and see who screams the loudest." "Because I don't love that plan." Mara shook her head, her eyes locked on the fragments. "No, these trials aren't meant to separate us. Every guardian so far has forced us to act together. If we split, the caves will consume us one by one." The air's flames licked higher, fierce against the oppressive whispers. "Then we step forward as one." Jack smirked faintly. "Fine, but if we all explode at once, I'm blaming both of you." Together, they placed one foot on the golden path. Instantly, the dome shuddered and the light beneath them rippled. The whispers grew into a roar, each voice tailored to cut deepest. Mara heard her mentors, her colleagues. "Your knowledge is useless. You'll watch them fall, just like the others." Jack heard his own father, drunk and bitter. "You're no hero. You never were. You'll run like you always do." The air heard Prometheus echo. "Flame does not save. It consumes. You will destroy what you love." The path trembled. The abyss gaped wider. Jack staggered, gripping his sword. "It's getting stronger." Mara's hands shook as she held the fragments tighter, runes spilling from her fingertips. Don't listen." The air's flames sputtered, dimming dangerously. His voice was raw. "I cannot." Jack shouted over the roar, his voice breaking. "We're not doing this alone. Not anymore." He thrust his sword down into the path. Mara pressed the fragments against the blade, their glow surging. The air flung what remained of his fire into the mix, and for a moment the three streams of energy tangled violently before fusing into a blinding column of light. The dome shattered. Crystals burst, raining shards that dissolved before they struck. The abyss sealed shut, leaving the days solid and whole. Upon its pedestal now hovered the fifth fragment, burning crimson, silver, gold, resonating with all three of them at once. The voices silenced. The whispers were gone. Mara fell to her knees, tears in her eyes. We didn't choose a single path." Jack helped her up, breathing hard. "Guess destiny's stuck with all of us." Then the air took the fragment in both hands. For the first time, his flames burned steady, unwavering. Not path. Not sacrifice, unity. "That is the truth the caves demanded." Mara nodded, a faint smile breaking through her exhaustion. "Then we've crossed the threshold fully." Jack grinned, though his legs trembled. "And now comes the fun part, making it back out alive." The fifth fragment pulsed between the air's hands, its glow spilling across the chamber like sunrise after an endless night. The oppressive whispers had vanished, but silence here was no comfort. It was watchful, heavy, as though the caves themselves waited for what the trio would do next. Jack rubbed his shoulder, wincing. "Okay, so we didn't die. That's a win. But tell me someone's got a map, because I'd really like to know which way exit is." Mara turned in a slow circle, studying the crystal walls. Her fragments resonated faintly, tugging her attention toward a narrow passage that had not been there before. "The caves respond to completion. We've proven ourselves. That must be the way forward. The heir glanced at the glowing arch of stone that now framed the new passage. Forward. Yes, he said quietly, but not upward. The caves lead us deeper still, Jack groaned. Of course they do. Because why let us climb out when we can go spelunking through nightmare country instead? The passage narrowed, forcing them into single file. The air was damp and cold, carrying the scent of ash though no fire burned. Every step echoed unnaturally, the sound coming back distorted, like someone else was walking just behind them. At one turn, Jack spun suddenly, sword raised. I swear I heard how he froze. The tunnel behind them was empty. Too empty. Their footprints in the crystalline dust were gone. Murat's grip tightened on the fragments. The caves erase the past once it has tested you. There's no turning back now. Jack muttered, Yeah. Message received. Forward, or die horribly. Got it. The tunnel opened into a vast cavern unlike any they had seen before. Instead of crystal or stone, the walls were carved with reliefs, ancient figures bearing torches, chained in flame or cradling fragments like precious children. Their eyes seemed to follow the trio as they entered. At the cavern's center, a wide stone platform rose from black water. Etched into its surface was a spiral, winding inward until it vanished beneath a pedestal. Upon it lay a sealed door of pure obsidian, veins of molten fire crawling across its surface like living veins. Murat's voice trembled with awe. The flame gate, the air's flames flickered brighter, reflecting off the molten lines. His jaw tightened. Beyond it lies Prometheus' last vault. The deepest threshold. Jack eyed the black door warily. And let me guess we don't just knock and stroll in. The heir shook his head. No. The gate opens only to those who burn with purpose greater than themselves. And it will demand a price. Murat's expression darkened. Every myth I've studied says the same thing. The flame gate tests the soul. If it finds us lacking, it consumes us. Jack exhaled sharply. Well, that sounds fun. Any chance we can just fake it? No one answered. The spiral on the platform began to glow as they approached, light winding inward toward the pedestal. Heat rose in waves, and a deep rumble shook the cavern. The obsidian door pulsed, alive, as though it had been waiting for centuries just to feel their presence. The heir stepped forward, his flames steady but his shoulders heavy. This is the true crossing. Everything before was preparation. If we falter here. He did not finish the thought. Jack forced a grin, though sweat beaded his brow. Guess that means we do what we've been doing all along, walk straight into the fire, hope we don't get roasted, and maybe kick destiny in the teeth while we're at it. Murat's gaze lingered on the glowing spiral. Her voice was soft but firm. Then let's step together. As one, and with that, the three of them placed their feet on the spiral, and the flame gate roared awake. The spiral under their feet thrummed, pulsing in time with the fragments Mara held. Light flowed up through the platform, licking their legs like molten waves. The obsidian door began to vibrate, veins of fire crawling faster across its surface. Jack swallowed hard. This is not just a door. This is like staring into the sun and hoping it doesn't notice you. Murat's eyes narrowed, her voice calm but resolute. It is not the sun. It is a reflection of us. The air's flames flared around him, forming a protective cocoon. Every threshold has a trial, not of strength alone, but of truth. If we enter, we cannot hide from ourselves, Jack muttered. Great, can't hide from ourselves. Just what I needed today. The moment they stepped onto the glowing spiral, the heat became unbearable. The light coalesced around them, taking shape. Before each of them rose a figure, an echo drawn from their own fears and regrets. Jack faced a shadow of himself, taller, stronger, eyes full of doubt and anger. It mirrored every failure, every cowardice, every moment he had tried and failed to save those he loved. Murat's echo was a twisted scholar, whispering that all her knowledge was useless, that she could never prevent tragedy, that she would always fail the ones she cared for most. The air confronted a phantom Prometheus, a vision of ancestral flame that warned him his fire was destruction, not salvation. The chamber vibrated as the illusions advanced. The flame gate pulsed, feeding on their fear. Heat intensified, light searing, but the fragments in Mara's hands resonated against the flames. Mara raised them high, chanting words older than memory. "We do not bow to fear." Jack clenched his sword, stepping forward. "We faced worse. We survived by sticking together." The air's flames roared, forming a protective barrier. "Then let the fire judge not our strength, but our unity." The illusions surged, attacking, whispering, testing their resolve. But together the trio moved as one, Jack blocking and striking the shadows, Mara weaving the fragment's energy into shields and wards. The air channeling flame to banish the echoes. Step by step, the illusions began to dissolve. The shadows shrieked, then turned to sparks, scattered by the combined power of courage, knowledge, and fire. Finally, the obsidian door responded. The veins of molten light merged into a single blazing column, and the door swung open silently. Beyond it, a chamber awaited, a place of untouched power, with the sixth fragment floating in the center, radiating an aura of both warmth and danger. Mara stepped forward, breath steady but eyes shining. The threshold is crossed. But the journey is far from over. Jack wiped sweat from his brow, grinning despite exhaustion. "And here I thought it would be easy. Bring on the next nightmare." The air's gaze lingered on the fragment, flames flickering softly. "Next is not just trial. It is destiny calling. We must be ready." The three of them stepped forward together, past the flame gate, into the chamber where the sixth fragment awaited and where the real test of their courage, trust, and unity would begin. The chamber beyond the flame gate was unlike anything they had seen. Pillars of black stone twisted toward a ceiling lost in shadow, while rivers of molten light crisscrossed the floor like living veins. At its center floated the sixth fragment, suspended above a pedestal carved with runes that glowed faintly in anticipation. Jack stepped forward cautiously, sword at the ready. "So, how do we grab it without melting our faces off?" Mara studied the runes, her brow furrowed. "It's protected by more than fire. This is a trial of balance and perception. We must move as one or we will fail." The air extended his arms, flames dancing over his skin. "The shadowbound will notice the fragment if we linger. We must act with precision. Every step, every breath, every heartbeat counts." The moment Jack set foot on the first molten vein, the floor shifted. Runes flared under their feet, and spectral walls rose from the shadows, forming a maze around them. Each path pulsed with light and energy, threatening to sweep them into the molten rivers below. Mara whispered, "The fragment reacts to intention. We must think, not just act. Let our movements be guided by unity, not haste." Jack gritted his teeth. "Unity. Got it?" Easy to say when the floor wants to eat you alive. The air moved first, tracing the flow of the molten veins with his flames. "Follow the currents. Balance, not force." He stepped lightly, flames forming bridges of light where the floor was unstable. As they progressed, illusions attacked, not shadows like before, but visions of possible futures. Jack saw his friends falling in battle if he hesitated. Mara saw her students consumed by dark magic, helpless. The air faced a vision of himself, flames out of control, reducing everything he loved to ash. Jack shouted, "Ignore it. None of it's real." Mara extended her fragments, weaving glowing threads of energy through the air. "Focus on each other. That is real." The air's flames flared, burning through the illusions. "We are one," he said. "Together we bend the trial to our will." Step by step, the trio advanced, balancing over molten light and dodging spectral traps. The fragment pulsed faster, almost as if sensing their determination. When they reached the pedestal, the final challenge appeared. The fragment itself manifested as a miniature storm. Lightning arcing and winds threatening to knock them off balance. Mara stepped forward, steadying the fragments in her hands. "We control it, together. Jack, your courage. Air, your flame. I will anchor it with the fragment's resonance." Jack planted his sword into the pedestal, steadying himself. "All right. Let's grab destiny by the horns." The air unleashed a controlled surge of fire, calming the swirling storm around the fragment. Mara raised the shards, weaving their energy into the fragment's core. Light, fire, and energy merged in a blinding column, and the storm collapsed into a single radiant crystal, hovering calmly in their midst. Jack exhaled, wiping sweat from his brow. One down, only one more. Right, Mara smiled faintly. We've passed another threshold. The fragments are coming together, but the Shadowbound are already aware of our progress. The final trials will not be so forgiving. The heir's gaze hardened. This is far from over. The sixth fragment is secured, but the journey will demand more than courage, knowledge, or fire. It will demand trust beyond all reason, together. They stepped away from the pedestal, the sixth fragment secured, and advanced toward the deeper tunnels where the final fragment and the ultimate confrontation awaited. The tunnels beyond the sixth fragment twisted into darkness so thick it seemed almost alive. Every step echoed unnaturally, the sounds swallowed and then returned distorted, like the caves themselves were mocking them. Jack muttered seriously. Couldn't the next trial just be a nice walk in the sun? Mara didn't answer. Her eyes scanned the walls, glowing faintly from the fragments in her hands. The seventh fragment is close, but the Shadowbound are already aware of us. Their presence is near. A low rumble reverberated through the tunnel, and shadows shifted at the edges of their vision. The air's flames flared higher, illuminating shapes that moved just beyond their reach. Scouts, they've sent their hunters ahead. We cannot linger. Jack gritted his teeth. Hunters, shadow monsters, lava rivers, illusions? Could this day get any better? Mara's expression remained grim. Focus, the caves respond to hesitation. Every delay strengthens the trials. The tunnel opened into a vast underground chamber. Jagged crystals jutted from the walls, refracting the air's flames into a storm of light. In the center, floating above a pedestal, glowed the seventh fragment. Its aura pulsed violently, crimson and gold swirling together as if alive. Jack's eyes narrowed. So, we just walk over and pray it doesn't explode. Mara shook her head. Not so simple. Every fragment is a trial in itself. The seventh is said to test your unity, the bond between the seeker and their companions. Alone, we fail. The air's gaze swept the chamber. Then we act as one. This is no longer about courage or knowledge. This is about trust. As they stepped toward the pedestal, the crystals along the walls began to vibrate, casting illusions across the chamber. Spectral versions of themselves appeared, mimicking their movements but exaggerating every fear and weakness. Jack swung at his phantom, but it vanished. Figures? Even my imaginary self is a jerk, Mara's echo whispered in her voice. You cannot protect them. You will fail. The air faced his double, flames flaring but dimming under the phantom's cold light. This is my own doubt, he murmured, and I cannot let it consume us. Jack shouted over the cacophony. Enough, you're not real. We decide who survives this. The trio synchronized their movements. Jack's courage, Mara's precision, and the air's flame intertwined like strands of energy. As they advanced, the illusions faltered, shimmering and distorting. Mara lifted the 4 fragments she already carried, letting their resonance combine with the 6th fragment they had just claimed. The light merged, forming a radiant pathway toward the 7th fragment. Jack placed his hand on the pedestal first, steadying himself, and the air's flames flared beneath them, stabilizing the floating fragment. Together, Mara channeled the energy of all the fragments in her hands, weaving a bridge of light. The illusions screamed and dissolved, leaving the chamber silent except for the gentle hum of the fragments. The 7th fragment hovered steadily above the pedestal, now fully accessible. Jack exhaled, slumping against the nearest crystal. Well, that was terrifying. But at least it didn't try to kill me directly.